Hello friends and welcome. I'm Sarah Liz and I'm back with another emergency card kit. This one looks a little bit different than some of the others because our sentiments are more organic here. I am so excited. I was inspired by the March 2025 Spellbinders club kits. I don't get them all, just a handful of them. And so I wanted custom sentiments to go with them. Some of these were released in previous kits in our standard circle and rectangle sizes. If you're new here, emergency sentiments are designed to be interchangeable from one card to the next. But I wanted to try something a little bit different today. So we're going to make these 3 cards in this tutorial. I'll show you all of the sentiments that are available. It's a completely free download. It's part of my mission to make card making more affordable and more accessible for everyone. And if you're already a club kit subscriber, this can help you to stretch your clubs and get lots of use out of them. If you're not a club kit subscriber, I promise the themes here are useful with lots of the supplies you may already have. If you're interested in these other 2 cards, I promise they're coming up. I wanted to keep this video a reasonable length. So these are our 2 interactive cards. They take a little bit longer to make, but in this one, our little dino dances. It takes just a little bit of dino surgery. So I'll show you how to do that. And then for this one, I am in love. It's a really simple design, but you hit the golf ball and then it ends up in the water and you can make a lovely little joke at the expense of your favorite golfer. I promise they're coming up, though the sentiments are available today. So today's free download starts with a 7-page PDF, and the first page has all of these really great sentiments. Happy birthday to you, like a little hound dog. Yappy birthday. This is repeated, but you'll see why in a little bit. Holy carp, you're really old. Or holy carp, it's your birthday. If you're happy and you know it, clap your, well, happy birthday anyway. I'm clapping on the inside. Happy birthday, fancy pants. Birthdays are like golf. They're more fun when you don't keep score. Beautiful birthday wishes. The PDF page is great if you want to cut these out with your trimmer or with a die, or if you're good at fussy cutting. If you're not super techie, it's really easy to just download and print this one. Then we have a text background that is fishing themed. You're the best. Wishing you a fantastic day filled with tight lines and big catches. Here's to a day filled with smooth waters and big smiles. There's a bunch of them in here, and I love using this as just a little bit of interest in the background, and it's going to come in 6 colors. So we have black, gray, light blue, medium blue, olive green, and brown. Those 7 PDF pages are completely free and they're linked in the description box below this video. All I ask is that you subscribe to my channel. If you want more flexibility with those sentiments, there are a few other options. I have a PNG and I have removed the background for you. And using that one, you can use them like digital stamps. You can resize them. You can eliminate the sentiments that you don't want to print. There is also a PNG file. It's just an image file with that transparent background where I have created that white bubble around it. So you can upload that to your Cricut or your Silhouette and perfectly cut those out with your print and cut features. That's what I did here. And then I used my offset feature to create a slightly larger layer. That way I get a really great map for each of my sentiments. Those PNGs are linked for free in my Patreon. So I'll link to that post and to the tutorial showing you how to join for free in the description box below. All right, let's make some cards. So we're going to use the small die of the month for this one and this fishing text background. I've printed the light blue onto some light blue cardstock. I love the really subtle look of this. And then it's such a wonderful surprise when the person you give this card to who really likes fishing looks at the background and actually reads the words on there, and it's specifically for them and sort of geared towards them. I think those are the things that make cards a lot of fun for me. It's a surprising element. So we are using the small die of the month, and I cut out a little bit of water using sort of a border die that's in there. If I had this to do again, I would cut less water, if that makes sense. I'm going to end up gluing it onto my card before I really check how tall that dock is, but not to worry. It's going to work out just fine. We'll do a little surgery later. In the meantime, I am putting together this man, and you can turn him into a golfer or a fisherman. I don't know what we want to call him, an angler. And he's bald. You guys, I never find dyes that show a really good bald-headed person. My husband is bald. I am delighted by this dye. I can see all kinds of ways that you could even just use like from the sweater up. Like if you were just doing a little vignette and you just needed the top half of a person. And I love that that suits him so well. There's also a baseball cap that he can wear instead of this sort of bucket hat situation. But if I'm honest, my husband burns really badly because he's bald. So he wears a bucket hat because we're really cool like that. I have two fishing rod options. I cut the one that looks like there's going to be a fish on it from two separate colors of cardstock, and I cut the green one off just to steal the pole, the handle of it. Can you tell? This is like the third video in a row where I'm like, I'm making something with coffee and I don't know anything about coffee. I'm making something with fishermen and I don't know anything about that either. But I love the images, so we're going to go with it. And you guys can let me know in the comments what I got wrong. Here you can see when I go to put sort of the boarding for the top of my dock on, it's going to completely overlap the edge of that water, and I don't want that. So I am just trimming down the posts, and I will make it so you can see the water sort of stretching out above and beyond that dock. You could also put the water rising up just below the dock. I think both look great. There's tons of inspiration on the Spellbinders website. So I will link to all the clubs below. They're worth checking out. I think it's a really great month for them. Somehow I managed to keep track of the hook that goes on the end of my pole, and I am just gluing my little fish right on there. I have no idea if a carp is orange. I tried to Google it and look at images, and there were some really ugly carp, and then there were like a couple of orange ones, but I don't know if they were right. I just liked the color on this card, so we're gonna go for it. I think it works great, but I would love to know what color it should be if it was gonna be an actual carp. I'm lining up the fish first because I'm very concerned about where that sentiment is going to go. So the fish and the hook went down, and then I sort of lined up the pole with the man and the fish at the same time. Glued the pole down second and the man down last. You can easily make two separate people out of this die set, fit them both on the dock. You can make them look a little bit different, I think even using just the one die set. And then there is a second pole where it looks like the line is all the way in the water, like it's being pulled a little more taut, and I love that. I just stuck a little bit of thin foam tape behind my sentiment, and I have stacked this up, right? So I cut it out using that transparent PNG that had the white background. So when I put it into whatever electronic cutting machine I'm going to use, it sees that white outline as a cut line. So I did a print and cut, and then I just told it like add an offset, and I think I did 0.35 inches. And that's that darker layer. It's a black layer behind there. So it says, holy carp, you're really old. You could use just the you're really old on the front of the card. I think that would work beautifully as well. There's an it's your birthday that you could use independently as well. There's so many permutations of this one. This is one of those sentiments where there was an original version of this that is available both in our 1 3/4 inch circle sentiment and our 2 1/4 by 1 1/4 inch rectangle. And I will link to that video below. It was before Patreon even started. So that entire kit is linked just in the description box of that video. And that will finish up card number 1. For card number 2, we're going to use the large die of the month. I love this one, and the stencil of the month. This little hound dog is the cutest thing. This guy has a little black piece or a die, I cut it out of black, that goes behind the dog that can be the nose, the eyes, and the collar. That's why it's sort of sticking down below his face. I wasn't sure at first. I thought it looked a little funny, but when I looked at sort of the layering guide of how to put it together, that's how it's supposed to go. I did forget to put his tongue in before I glued those two pieces together. So there's a lot of room for you to really let that tongue hang out, but I clipped off part of what you would glue behind the mouth just so that I could get enough in there that this would work. You could skip the tongue too. I don't think it needs it, but if there's a goofy option, I'm going to take it. There are these really great, super easy layering pieces for his eyes and ears And then there's one that is like both a spot and a tail. There's this little ball cap you can put on the dog so that the dog could kind of match the guy who's fishing. You could put them together. I think that would be a lot of fun. And then there's one more spot that goes kind of up near his neck. So I love that Spellbinders makes it really easy to layer up your die cuts. It creates this debossed detail on the cardstock so you know exactly where everything goes. But I will say I played around a fair bit to try to figure out how low to put his head. I'm pretty happy with where it is here, but there isn't a clear, to me, debossed line of like, this is where the head fits on the body. So I would say just go look at the layering guide online. It's linked with the club kits. And it's pretty easy to put together. I made the hat. I like that I showed you the hat. We're not going to use it. I decided I liked him without it because he's going to be an inside dog. There's also a pair of slippers that would have been really, really cute. This is the stencil of the month, and it's a 5-piece stencil set, but it's really like 2 separate sets of layering dies. This one coordinates with the better press of the month. So if you like a stamped outline to go with your stencils, the better press will do that. I don't have that club. And so I am just doing the stencils alone, and I think they're stunning. This set of 3 is my favorite. This is a newer club kit, and I feel like they've been making adjustments. So typically it is an A2 sized stencil, and it's exactly A2. Well, you can see I have an A2 panel back there, and the stencil is ever so slightly bigger, which is amazing. Then I don't have to worry about getting it perfectly lined up on my panel. But I did stick it all down to my grip mat, and you can see I have some mint tape. It's like Post-it tape in that top left-hand corner. That's just letting me know where to put the next layer of the stencil to help me line it up again. This wasn't a hard one, but I wasn't sure when I started. So it was really helpful to have that just to be a little more confident about it. I did 2 layers of gray, and then this is a silver metallic ink. This was my first time using the Lisa Horton Cloud 9 silver ink. It's great. I also like the Brilliance silver. I'll link to the ones that I've used and like below. I'm really picky about my metallic inks. They have to dry. They have to dry all the way. I don't want to have to use a fixative. This one did that, and I appreciate that so much. I did heat set it because I wanted to get back to work right away. And then I'm pulling in a scrap that was like out on my desk. You may recognize I made a living room for another card not that long ago. I thought that stencil looked like wallpaper. And so I had this, it's a Hero Arts die left over. It's like a wood grain texture, but you could use a wood grain paper, a wood grain stamp. There's lots of ways you could go about this one. And I'm just going to use a little bit of it and glue it to the bottom. Then I have some ever so slightly gray cardstock. I am scoring this at 1/8 of an inch. We're going to make a baseboard. Last time I did this, I stacked up a couple layers of cardstock and it was just too bulky. And so I am trimming off a tiny sliver. So I still have that score line, but it's closer to the top. And then I gave it like another 1/4 inch past the score line. That's going to be my baseboard, and I'm going to layer it right on top of that wood grain at the bottom. I adore this. I am going to make wallpaper out of this stencil in so many different colors. I'm grabbing all the permutations of the happy birthday to you. Guys, I can't hound dog. Everybody's been sick around here. I hit it a little higher once. It's not going to happen again. So I cut an offset for the pink and the purple that's like slightly larger than the white bubble that's in the PNG file. And I glued on the happy birthday to you that's on the cardstock that's just in that white bubble. But then I layered up another one that is bubble cut around the sentiment, and I popped that up on a little bit of foam so I get a little bit of dimension. The sentiment in the speech bubble is ever so slightly bigger than the one I'm putting on top, but it's going to be fine. I am not worried about it. Then I can sort of line everything up on my card. This is as close as I get to clean and simple, my friends. And I was really proud of myself. I have a little bit of foam tape behind part of his head and his ears, but then he's lifted up a little bit on the bottom of the card, so I didn't add it there. A little wet glue behind the sentiment. And that, my friends, is card number 2. It is so stinking cute and really simple. I have been itching to get back to my mixed media roots lately, and so this one was an experiment. It's not super mixed media, but we're heading the right direction. This is the 3D embossing folder of the month, and I have an A2 panel. I think you could emboss an entire panel with just the sort of pattern on the top, but when you put it down at the bottom, you are going to get a little bit of the florals on that left-hand side. I am not worried about it. I am using these Hero Hues Reactive Glitz inks today. You can get these at Spellbinders. Remember, Spellbinders bought Hero Arts, and so you can get a lot of their products on the Spellbinders website. And these are water reactive, but also shimmery. A lot of our sort of metallic and shimmery inks are pigment inks or oil-based inks, or they just don't react with water particularly well or interestingly. But I saw Shannon from Hero Arts teach this, I think it was through Scrapbook and Cards Today on their channel, and I had to try it. So I'm just swiping on ink sort of in color order. We have pink, purple, blue, and green. And these last three I swiped all at the same time. And I'll be honest, I'm not getting quite the deep pigmented color I remember Shannon getting, but admittedly, I watched that video a while ago. So I set that aside, I let it dry completely, and then I'm coming back in with more ink and I will spray it again. I really want that top part to be nice and dark, and it's hard to see the shimmer right now, but it is there. And a lot of times it's adding a slightly different color to it. You can see it most, I think, in the green and the pink. It's almost like a gold shimmer in there, and it is just beautiful. So I'm coming back in with a little more water. I'm going to spray it again. I'm looking for a few more drips and a little more pigmentation. And then I'm going to go in with a paintbrush because I also don't like a mess. I don't like to clean up a mess. I think I quit doing mixed media kind of when I had kids because I couldn't just have paints out all the time, right? I remember painting even when my oldest son was born, and it was like I was trying to entertain him in a bouncer in the craft room while also painting little scenes and doing some doodles. And it was like I had to get up constantly and my paint would dry out too quickly. But this made me so happy to get close to that place again. So I added a little water to the ink that is on my media mat here, and I'm picking it up with a paintbrush, and I am very loosely sort of dribbling it onto the drip lines that were already there. I am rinsing it out in between as I move from color to color. I'm not entirely sure how well these inks blend. I know I tried it. I don't remember it working particularly well because the micas don't blend, but the ink does. So that might be something I try next time to see how I can make that work in some interesting ways. I also didn't have a ton of overlap because I wasn't sure if it would pick up ink and contaminate the pads. I didn't see any contamination, but I was really careful not to overlap too much anyway. I trimmed this down to 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and I'm going to put that onto a black A2 panel. It's going onto a black card base, but there was a lot of water a lot of times on that panel. So I used a pretty thick layer of glue, and then I will put these 2 layers on top of the card base, and that will help fix some of that warping. Off camera, I also ran it back through the embossing folder one more time before I started gluing everything together. I'm not sure what I did with that footage, but it happened. And it did help to sort of put some of the definition back into those images and to fix some of the curling that was happening in the wettest parts of the paper. I have a sentiment that I probably will cut out in bulk. It says, "Beautiful birthday wishes," and I love the font for beautiful. If you download this in either of the PNG formats, you can eliminate any of the sentiments that you don't want. It's one image, but I have carefully placed them on the page so you can just crop it down like you would anything else with the sort of flat sides. There's a little white piece on there. Drag them in until you have isolated just that one sentiment, and then copy and paste. I thought originally I was just going to put a sentiment on here, but these come from the large die of the month and they're really stunning florals. So I thought, let's put some of these on there too. I'm going to make more than I need right now, but I love that you've got lots of different sort of shapes and sizes. And I had already cut them, not thinking they were for this card, and they happen to be in the same colors. This is my happy spot, these sort of bright, bold, vivid colors. And so I really didn't ink blend except on this one because really the two pieces of the flower look best when they're cut out of slightly different shades of cardstock. So it was less blending and more just creating a second shade of pink. For my larger flowers, the sort of daisy-shaped flowers, I did use a black marker just on the inside so I would have another layer of color in the middle. And then I will arrange these around the outside of my sentiment. Once I get them where I want them, I'm grabbing a sticky mat. It's like an off-brand silhouette mat that I cut into pieces. I'll link it below. It's really low tack. I'll take the sentiment off and then I'm going to place this exactly in the bottom left corner of my card. I know it's the top, but I rotated it, so we're going to call it the bottom. Okay, I'm going to flip it over because those pieces are really small. And then I'm actually marking the top left corner because I didn't get my sticky mat on quite straight. So I'm basically marking 2 spots just as a security blanket. I don't usually put the mint tape on there. I'm going to stick my little glue bottle nozzle in there to make sure the die cuts are glued together. And then I will flip my card base upside down and press it down onto that glue. I like to have my sticky mat upside down to work this way instead of just trying to pick up the whole sticky mat when my die cuts overlap a whole bunch, because that way, if it's not sticky enough, I'm not flipping that mat over and there are die cuts flying everywhere and I'm sad because I can't remember, what I did 2 minutes ago and I don't remember where they went on my card. But those are glued now securely to my card base. I'm going to add a little bit of wet glue behind my sentiment just for wiggle room, just because I'm so close to the end of this card. And that will finish up card number 3. Friends, I have, again, 2 more cards that will come out in a later video. We have this golfing card using the small die of the month, and that custom sentiment is in the same download as the ones from today. And then there's another interactive card that has our little dancing dinosaur. I can't decide which of those 2 I'm more excited to teach you. They are both using like a clear fishing line almost, but I got it at probably Hobby Lobby. I got it at a craft store. It's a super, super thin nylon clear thread. And I will show you how I go about putting all that together. Other top picks this month include the 2D embossing folder, the stitching die of the month, which I don't usually say. The clear Stampin' Die has a ton of great sentiments and one die to cut them all out. Much like the glimmer of the month, if you like half or more of the clubs, the Deluxe Caboodle is your best option because you get a huge discount and all the clubs. If you're interested in the free downloads, all I ask is that you subscribe to my channel, then click on more or show more beneath the video, and that will unpack that description box. You'll find links to the clubs, the emergency card kit playlist where you'll find lots of other downloads, a link to the PDF with all 7 pages, and a link to the post in my Patreon with the free PNG files. If you're new to Patreon, there's also a tutorial right there showing you how to join for free. Thank you all so much for spending your time with me, and I will see you next time.